Hate to say it, but it's a bit of a crisis at Arsenal as middle-aged men everywhere decide, can I do the Gyökeres celebration? This is the ArsenalVision post-match podcast. My name is Elliot, Black Manchester Yankee Gunner. I've seen some try it, and I wouldn't advise it. Let's put it this way. As of this moment, I want to confirm I have no plans to do the, oh no, Clive's already done it on the camera, so I guess the taboo is lifted. Nope. See, I'm just not going to. Now, some would say, Elliot, it blocks your face, so it's actually the best possible celebration you could do. And to those people, I would say, well played. I do want to say, so on Friday, we did something unique. We did a Friday Night Clive, but we welcomed a special guest, and that guest is Adam Friedland. He is a celebrity here in the U.S., and is in his world, he's been a hugely successful podcaster. He has an interview show. And I have to admit, this is me, right? I'm a bit of a control freak. I'm a bit of a nervy guy. I get worried. He came on. He has his unique style. I was all worried. It's just a lesson to trust your audience because people really loved it. I can't thank Adam enough for coming on. He was wonderful. And I think expressed the views of a segment of fans who came post-Invincibles and how they engage with Arsenal versus people who maybe experienced different eras of success. And so I thought that was really interesting. We have the video up now. If you want to go to Patreon, you can check that out. We do have 3 different Gyökeres scouting videos. We have Eze scouting videos. We did a Madueke scouting video over there, so you can check all that out. The Transfer Daily is still rolling on. So all things being equal, it's just a fun time right now, and I think we can agree there's a lot of fun things happening. We'd love to have you over there, and if you use code AVP50, you can get 50% off the first month for all that. Heading over to Singapore next week, so we'll have fun content over there, and can't wait to see some people in a different part of the world. It's great when Arsenal come here, close, easy to do, but it's important to travel halfway around the world and see other people and connect with other groups. So I'm excited to do that. And I am excited to connect with this group to discuss what is, let's say, a pretty big moment, Arsenal getting some business done that has been long overdue. And here to discuss it with me is Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hello there.
And Clive. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
Yeah, it is a podcast that is going to focus heavily on Viktor Gyokeres appearing to be the striker signing that Arsenal have needed for a long time. And the pieces are all starting to fit together. We're going to talk a bit about Berta as well and the work he's doing. We'll talk about some of the other moves coming together, like Christian Mosquera, the potential arrival of others like Eze, but it is Gyökeres Day. And Tim, before we get to the player, I want to get your sense of how important this move is. I feel that it's grown in its symbolic importance because of the sense that we've needed it for so long, so that now, instead of it being about, is striker actually the number one priority for Arsenal, it's become more a point of Arsenal just can't buy a striker and they need to. So how do you see this vis-a-vis the importance to the club of just checking this off the to-do list generally?
Yeah, do you know what? I tried to, sometimes like a thought experiment is to think about things kind of a little bit back to front. So I was trying to think today, because I think I have some, I want to say I have some doubts about this move. I think there are doubts about this move, definitely in terms of scalability, age profile. Everyone loves an age profile discussion and things like that. I think my own feeling is he'll probably be good. And maybe not much more, but not less. But I was thinking to myself today, let's say he bombs. Let's say that, and sorry to introduce that, just as we're discussing like an exciting new signing we've been going for. But I was trying to get a sense, because like you said, we've wanted and needed this for quite a while. And I think it's fair to say the last 2 windows, this has been at least a 3-window thing, maybe even more. And actually the fact that Havertz, I don't want to say filled in, because I think there's some revisionism about Havertz. His debut, guys, his debut for Arsenal, guess where he played? Centre bloody forward. So it was clearly always the plan that he would play there. Maybe not this much, but I think there's a little bit of, we bought him as a midfielder and he was rubbish, so we had to put him up front. And I don't think that's the case. Anyway, so I was trying to think to myself, what if Gyökeres bombs? And I don't think he will, but I was like, what if he does? And I was kind of thinking, I still think we'll be okay. Now, then it comes to what does okay look like? Because we basically haven't had this position for a little while, essentially, nearly 3 years, basically since I think Gabriel Jesus's knee went at the World Cup. And it's like, we've still been a good team in that time. I think everyone thinks we need another goal scorer. Definitely, we need like another, at minimum, one more source of goals, probably two, in a kind of shared goal model we have. So I'm not dismissing the importance of this. I guess I'm just looking at what does the worst case scenario look like, or where he gets like injured or something. And like, I don't think we'll totally and utterly fall apart. I don't think we did with Marino up front, really. We weren't quite good enough for what we want to be, but we were still a good team. We still thrashed Real Madrid 5-1 over 2 legs. So I guess maybe it's a little bit of copium on my part where I'm trying to talk down the importance of the signing. It does have a symbolic importance, but to be honest, I'm less bothered about the symbolic importance of signings, because I don't think that's why you sign players. I think that's something we talk about. I don't think clubs do or should care about it. And I think the whole symbolic thing fades away the first time they kick a ball. Like, I think we talk about symbolic signings because it's the summer and there's nothing else going on. And we have to like create, we have to make it a bit 3D. We have to make it leap off the page at us. It won't matter once he's like how symbolic it is, or other like how symbolic was the signing of Thierry Henry or Patrick Vieira. Like, not symbolic at all. Didn't matter. I think that's a lot of that's like post hoc. But obviously, this is a very important piece. I think we didn't win the league last season. We didn't really challenge for it properly because of depth, and this gives us depth. And because we don't score enough goals. And hopefully he can really boost us in that piece as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk about the player specifically. And we'll probably be doing that for quite a while over the next several months and hopefully the whole next season. But I just think zooming out, if you asked me what one area we could improve that would most move the needle on our title chances and even Champions League chances, I'd probably say an upgrade off the left. You know, I think a team that starts Kai and Saka can win everything if you have a better player off the left, or if you don't want to say better player, if you feel that's harsh, better output off the left. You know, I don't think either of our left-wing players played to the level that we'd like them to last season. Now, there are some people that would disagree and say Kai is not good enough there. I think, interestingly, if you look around world football, it's very mixed as to whether or not you need a sort of star striker to be a successful team. It certainly doesn't hurt. But regardless, I think the fact that we definitely needed a striker last summer and everyone knew it and we didn't get it, and we definitely needed a striker in January and everyone knew it and we didn't get it, put more pressure on this signing. And now that it appears to be done, I think it is as much a relief as it is excitement for me, candidly. But Clive, some of the degree to which this feels important is going to be determined by the performance of the player. And I want to focus on the player a bit if we can. The battle lines are pretty clear on this one. If you just want to look at his body of work, no striker in world football can compete. End of story. If all you want to look at is the output, he's as good as they come. The counter argument would simply be a combination of, because of his age, he's going to be a one-contract player, right? You're not going to get him for that second contract, or at least most likely. And the other argument is the strength of the league he's been in. You know, there's a lot of penalties. There's a lot of beating up on easy opposition. Let's set that aside for a minute and just talk about the player. You want to kind of give us your overall high-level scouting pitch on Viktor Gyokeres and why he's the right guy for us.
I think he's the right guy. But I'd have been happy with either. You know, Sesko, I'd have been happy. Yep. So I'm not going to say, oh well, he's the right guy. But as you get a look a bit deeper, when you realise something's going to happen, it sort of dawned on me a few weeks ago, and I thought, you know what? Sometimes in football, you need things to fit, not just tactically and physically and creatively wise, but I'm a big believer in emotional fit, right? So, and I think he has a style of play which really radiates what we need, which is really forceful attack, right? So, and the two attackers that are coming through the door, they are quite forceful and relentless attackers, and I think we need that. I think we've become a little bit systemic, and you need people to step out of that, you know, because that's all they can do. You know, in some ways, they bring something they do really, really well. If you've been bought because you can move, and you move aggressively in behind, and you move aggressively laterally, and that's your first thought of process, rather than always coming to meet it, although he can do that too, I think that changes things. It changes your direction. It changes what the art of the possible going forward. And I think all of us, pretty wise, our audience, we'd like us to be a little bit more direct on occasions when it's on offer. And when you've got people that just do that, you naturally will see passes go forward, maybe a bit earlier in the transition per se, a little bit earlier if the opportunity is there. And when I sit in the ground, you can see a run, and we turn away from a run. That's probably always going to happen. But I'd like to see the pass go a little bit more often. And it doesn't matter who it is. It's just we do this all over. So defenders, wingers, centre mids, we ignore stuff on occasions. But when you've got a major players that come in, you've got a couple of forwards coming in, over 100 million worth of talent, mate, you better pass on the ball. Otherwise, why are we buying them? So I do think we need to add that. And I really like his mentality around his craft. I tell you, we can all find an issue with the player. I promise you. If I'd have scattered Thierry Henry before he come, I'd have said, well, he can't trap it. He runs out the building. He's all right. Once he slows down, I reckon he might be quite good. That's what I probably would have said. And look, he soon shoved that up everyone's backside once he settled. And so we can all find issues with a player. But sometimes once you get him in the group and you see what they had from a desire point of view and what we're trying to achieve, I cannot sit. I sit here and I watch the team, and I think, I just want to see a bit more emphasis on attack. And we literally bought the player which gives you the most emphasis on attack, just in everything he does. He's just quite basic. He's quite basic. He's quite, bombastic. He's quite bullish. He's just like, boss, go for it, bang, bang. Just, I want the ball. I want to get a shot. And I think that has a massive message to everybody else in the team. To say we need to dial this round a little bit because teams point we haven't scored enough goals. It's as simple as that. We're 15, 20 short, and we've hardly lost an XG battle since I don't know when. But we're short, so we've got a lot of things going for us, but we don't have enough attacking emphasis, and we're trying to solve it. And I think it's brilliant. I really do. And then my new show of his level, we will soon know. I think he might surprise a few people. We'll soon know. But I'm not worried. I want to see attack become the first thing we talk about rather than control.
When you look at some of the strikers that are scoring 20 goals in the Premier League or high teens goals in the Premier League, I wouldn't say all of them are world class. I mean, if Arsenal had just signed Chris Wood, I don't think we'd be fist pumping and high fiving, but the guy's a 20 goal striker in the Premier League. I think if you can get accurate, powerful shots off, for a team that dominates space the way we do, there's a chance you're going to get your goals or that your shots are going to lead to goals for others. One of the ways you break down low blocks, by the way, is you shoot. And that shot results in a deflection or a rebound for the players that are in the box, and suddenly defenders are scrambling and you get ugly goals. And that's something we can add. I do think that his runs are immediate and intentional. And if you think about it, Tim, Gabriel Jesus wants to come deep, receive, lay it off. Kai wants to come deep, receive, lay it off, or maybe when we get the ball back in transition, he wants to pull out to the right and pull out to the, the wings. And Mikel Merino, love what he did for us at striker, but he can't move really. No. So he's going to stand near the box and hope the ball gets to him so he can shoot accurately on goal and score goals. And by the way, thank you for doing that, mate. It's great. But this is someone who wants to challenge the space behind the defenders. And I don't just mean at the halfway line. I mean, anywhere he is, he wants to challenge the space behind defenders. And he wants to be running towards goal. And so overall, I think he adds something we don't have. And in a team as good as we are, sometimes what you do is say, just get more of what we already do. But sometimes you say, let's get something we don't have. And I don't think we have anyone who hits the ball as hard, as accurately as he does, or runs as instantly and as intentionally as he does. And so we are adding qualities we didn't have. Whether they are at the Premier League level or not, we're going to find out. But these are qualities we didn't have, and now we have them. And I think that's how I look at it. We've filled a gap. Do you have a different or similar perspective on the player? What do you think?
I have a similar perspective. There's one soft factor and one more tactical factor I'm really interested in this signing.
Okay.
The soft factor one, I don't think this is a particularly original thought, but I think good attackers maybe slightly challenge your no dickheads rule a little bit. They've got that swagger, and this is purely a soft factor thing from the things I've heard about Gyökeres and some of the things he's said. He doesn't seem to lack belief. in himself. I think his most recent interview was about how he considers himself one of the best strikers in the world. That remains to be seen, but I kind of want a striker who thinks like that. Basically, I actually think it's quite key to the position that you have that belief and that kind of borderline arrogance, and maybe that's something we are missing. That kind of team of son-in-laws thing in the forward line, and even Madueke, we've had some discussions, haven't we, about whether there are not so much around his attitude. I think that's kind of over barreling the gun a little bit, but or gilding the lily a bit. But there's some kind of can he be a bit of a dickhead sometimes? And actually, I kind of think that either it's intentional or that players like that do just have a little bit of the attitude that maybe we're missing in the final third, that we're perhaps a little bit workmanlike for the team, well structured and all of that, and perhaps we need like some bad boys, for want of a better word. And Gyokeres seems to have that. Whether that translates into anything useful on the pitch, we'll see. The other thing, though, more tactically, Elliot, I'm really interested in, you mentioned Gabriel Jesus there. First of all, I'm interested in, I've heard that Gyokeres likes the left channel a lot, and that is a side of the team that doesn't function like the right at the moment. And what Clive was saying about play that ball, like take that risk. I mean, look at who we play at left 8, Havertz, Marino, Rice. Those are guys that can counter-press, right? So if Gyokeres is making you run into the left channel and it doesn't quite work or it gets intercepted, I'm backing any one of Rice, Havertz or Marino to be on top of that ASAP. And I'm thinking about how someone like Calafiori or Miles Lewis-Skelly can interrelate with that and really feed the ball in that channel, and just making us a bit more dangerous on the left side. And you mentioned Gabriel Jesus. I still think something that's quite underrated that we've lost maybe in that move from Jesus to Havertz is a little bit of a loss of chaos, a little bit of a loss of dribbling, unpredictability. And I really do think, I don't think it's the only reason that Martinelli hasn't quite hit the heights since. I think it's a massive reason, though. I think he misses. I don't think Martinelli Havertz, it's not a bad relationship, but it's not Saka Odegaard. It's not Saka Odegaard White. I think like Martinelli really misses having that little bit more chaos on that left-hand side in someone like Jesus, who'll drift out there, who'll go into the spaces that free Martinelli up a little bit. So I'm really fascinated to see whether he can help us unlock our left side as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of this too. And it's part of the having something you didn't have before. I want to ask one more soft factor question to you, Clive, and then I want to just talk about potential weaknesses for a minute. Just on the soft factor front, I think it's not a reason to select a player. You should get the best players. But players that really want to come play for you and really want to be at the club, I think can make a difference. It can make a difference to the commitment in the group. It can make a difference to the commitment you see on the pitch. Saka's an academy player. Miles Lewis-Skelly academy. Ethan academy. Kai Havertz famously said it means more at Arsenal. Right? We have players that want to be there. Viktor Gyokeres clearly wanted to be at Arsenal. Gave up money to be at Arsenal. Could have gone to United. Big club. Big money. Play in the Premier League. Did not want that. Wanted Arsenal. Do you think that that's something that we as fans care more about than it matters? Or can you see that mattering in ways that we can observe on the pitch long term?
Yeah, it's a bit of a soft thing. I think if we see an interview this week with, say, Noni Madueke, and he's talking about he's born in Barnet, and when he grew up, he basically loved Arsenal from when he was young, and he's finally got here, we'd all go, oh, what a great guy he is. Because that's what we do, right? The news cycles go very, very quickly. I think Tim's point around attitude, and I think it's really, that's the point for me this whole season. These two players, we could say attitude, what they have is character. And that's the key. The character to play and carry the shirt. They don't care about certain things. They just want to go. They're not worried about certain things. We're going to need the characters this season, because we've seen what's happened in the last few days, but somebody hasn't even signed yet. What can happen when everyone wakes up from an online perspective? there can be a storm created very, very quickly, and it's hard for people to stay calm. Right? So, and I keep saying to you, Elliot, but just imagine if we're actually drawing a game with 10 minutes to go. We're going to be looking for the characters that want to keep going, want to keep playing. And I think having those characters this year more than any other year I can remember, when the pressure is on before a ball is kicked, we've been positioned nicely by everybody in the media to say, Arsenal need to win something now. They come second 3 times in a row, blah, blah, blah. The manager's under pressure. The club is sort of saying the manager's not under pressure quietly to the smart journalists to let people know. What they're really saying is we need to create an environment where we can actually play and actually run and feel relaxed, because they're the best environments. And when you do have those moments of pressure, you turn around and you look at the bigger characters and say, and they're the ones that stand up. And I think it's quite significant that the players that we've signed in Norgard, skipper, character, leadership. You've got Zubimendi, we're learning about him, right? So, but there's the 2 strikers that are coming this week. They're not little flowers, are they? They got character. I think it's going to be so key this season. The most key thing is going to be that. And I don't worry about ability. And Tim's right, talk about Gyökeres' running lines versus Havertz's running lines on the right-hand side. We might tilt the team a little bit this season, which we all want to see. Different distributor from the middle of the pitch. A lot of the core fundamentals are in place. The defenders are strong, quick, can press up one-on-one. We're happy with that. A lot of our structures are in place. Character under pressure, staying healthy, more emphasis on attack, a little bit more centrality. We all know the issues. Can we get them? Can we get a bit more depth in wide areas, a bit more pace? Can we retain speed for the full 90? Particularly in top end of the pitch so we can travel up. This is all in there, mate, and we all know the problems, and I think we're trying to solve them.
You just said something, and I want to call this out because it's really interesting. I saw a chart, and I have to thank Billy Carpenter for putting it onto my social media timeline, but it's a scouted football chart, and it charts 2 things. How quickly do you get to your top sprint speed, and how often do you run in behind in a game? And Viktor Gyokeres is the furthest player up and to the right in this entire chart by a distance, meaning sprint repeatability. He gets to his top speed quickly, and he runs all game. He repeats sprints more than anybody else in the entire chart in Europe. Okay? I think Premier League football, maybe more than anything, is about repeat sprints. I think it is about intensity repeated over 90 minutes. And it actually reminds me of something Tim found out. If you remember, Tim, this happened to you, so I'm sure you remember it because you remember things that didn't happen to you from 1927.
Exactly.
But yeah, so silly me. But Tim went to the High Performance Center when we had our new High Performance Center opening and got a tour of it. And he said they let some of the plebes, the unwashed masses, engage in some of the training activities, right? Some of the measurements. And some of these people were actually able to measure reasonably close to the professionals. But the one they couldn't get close to was top sprint repeated. Right, Tim? And so this is something where I think anybody who's worried, will his pace translate to the Premier League? Will his physicality translate to the Premier League? Some of this is about a VO2 max, right? If you're like a workout person, what's your VO2 max, right? What's your lung capacity? How often can you repeat sprints? I'm sure Arsenal have some pretty advanced data, but this data saying this guy gets to top speed fast and runs behind more times a game than anyone else, that to me, Tim, sounds like exactly the kind of physical qualities you need in the Premier League. And I do think that will translate. And so seeing that was extremely encouraging, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And the one time I've ever consciously watched the guy was when we played Sporting last season, and that's the image I'm left with, was the 90th minute when they were 5-1 down, and he's still sprinting into that left channel, trying to break his neck to score. And at the time, I kind of thought, well, he's doing this because he wants to make a mark. And I can't remember the timeline, whether that's before or after he scored against Man City. But after, okay. But, I kind of thought probably he sees this as a bit of an audition for Arsenal as well. But everything I've read since is that's pretty normal business for him. That's kind of just what he does. So, he would. I don't think it was Gabriel and Saliba. I think Kivior was in there. I think we'd made a sub.
Saliba and Kivior.
Yeah.
Right,
but that's still Saliba in particular, that's 2 really high quality Premier League centre backs that, he ran them. in the last minute. And obviously it's like it's an isolated incident. Again, there's a lot here about scalability and things like that, but that's a really positive sign. I do think there's something to be said as well, and we have seen this in the past, maybe even with our own manager when he was a player, about a player who knows this is like their last chance for the big move, where for him, clearly the reason he was talking about doing anything to come to Arsenal is because he knows if it doesn't happen this summer, it's never happening, basically. And he feels like he's done his apprenticeship and he wants that kind of okay. Whereas for someone like Sesko, for example, if he's on the trajectory that most people think he's on, this move's coming around again next summer and next summer, like he'll have other chances to make that big move, whereas Gyökeres won't. And I do think sometimes there is something to be said for bringing a player in who knows that this is totally career defining for them. And, look, we once signed a striker of a similar age by the name of Ian Wright. And I think it was pretty similar for him. I didn't think I was going to have a career at this level. Was quite happy to get to Crystal Palace. I took the long route there as it was, and Arsenal comes up, and it's like, and then Jamie Vardy coming into the Premier League in his late 20s, probably never thought it was coming, and thought, well, I'm going to take this opportunity with both hands now because it's not coming round again. So again, we're talking about soft factors here, but I do think there's something to be said for that. I don't get the impression, if he's not good enough, he's not good enough. I don't get the impression he's going to wilt under the lights, though.
And look, sometimes you have to admit that you don't know everything. I'm not talking about me, obviously. I'm talking about other people. No, but what I mean by that is striker signings fail at a pretty high rate at major football clubs with huge scouting departments and huge data teams. Manchester United in consecutive summers bought 2 terrible strikers. Now, they're a pretty crap club. Chelsea are trying to replace their striker again after trying to replace their striker again. Right? Yeah, City got Erling Haaland. Okay, you do that, you're pretty well sorted. But outside of that, there aren't a lot of clubs that just consistently get this position right. And so what that tells you is whatever the data says, whatever the scouting says, there's still a good chance you're going to get it wrong. And there's a part of me that says, you know what? Instead of going for the hipster pick in Sesko, who looks like he's got all the physical tools and boy, is he fun to look at, but you know what? He hasn't actually totally put it all together yet. Maybe you just buy the guy that's smashed goal scoring records in Europe and say, maybe it doesn't work, but I'm betting on that. I'm betting on a guy who's shown I know how to put it in the back of the net over and over and over and over again, and I have an intense hunger to do it, and I'll run all game, and in the 95th minute, I'll still be sprinting in behind. Just get that guy. And that's what we've done. I don't have a problem with it. Clive, I do think it is important in these moments to at least say what we think the areas for improvement for the player could be. What are the areas where if it isn't working on a specific day, we're going to see these things come out, whether that's technique or physicality or some other aspect of the game. So do you have any sort of collection of qualities where this player could improve or could have weaknesses that we might see in his game when he arrives?
Yeah, I don't like to do this bit, but I'm going to do it. I think I saw some videos last week, maybe I think one was on The Athletic as well, and they were saying that basically there's a bit of a concern that he doesn't get his shots off quick enough. I thought to myself, okay, with my sort of head, I'm thinking, well, with strikers, I'm looking at your ability to have good contact on the ball and ball striking. Number one, are you moving? So running in behind and lateral movements, he's right up there, as you alluded to earlier on, and lateral movements I really like because that means we're closer to goal. I mean, you can run across the back line, not just transition. So that means low blocks he can work, as long as he's moving on that diagonal. And Odegaard and Co can find him as he's moving. So I thought, that's fine. Does he strike the ball well? Yes, he does. Now, he'll soon work out in the Premier League. He ain't got time for a touch. Right? So that's far more coachable than not having the ability to strike the ball off both feet. Do you know what I mean? Hard and low. I know I joked at the live event about it isn't that complicated. We just need someone who can kick it hard. I really don't think it's that complicated. And I don't see a huge risk here. And I'm more comfortable with that risk statement because I saw Arsenal make Mikel Merino usable. right? And he was very usable. So why have I'm not too worried about this? Because those Man United guys you mentioned earlier, Elliot, they come into a team with no structure, with no defined way of playing. They almost have to define that with themselves, or if Bruno's on it that day, and suddenly they have a team. We have a structure. We have continuity. We have people in key areas. We have a way of playing, different ways of playing. We can go definitely press the ball. Gyökeres is a very good presser off the ball as well. He's very aggressive. He's far more sprinty than the others, so we'll be even better in that regard and more energetic. And so he's now coming into a team which is really, really, for me, it's easy to join. And actually, if you do some of the stuff you do anyway, we're going to be even better. We add more layers to our attack. So I think people, you can, for him and Sesko, in wide areas, they can look a bit bumbly on occasions.
Do you think his technical level is high enough, Clive? I mean, that is a question mark.
Well, it depends what you want. You could say so. Honestly, we see so much information now. But, in what scenarios would you say that? Sometimes he can look over the ball and he can just look a bit clumsy. But again, I look at the intent. What's he trying to do? So I think Martinelli also has his head down over the ball on occasions. But I never worry about that, as long as he's trying to be aggressive. Right? So when he runs out and knocks the ball back 10 yards and doesn't want to take on his man, I have more of an issue with that. Because that's a mindset issue. That's like, do you really believe you can beat people? So I'm looking at your ability to apply your talent rather than your talent. I promise you, every player we can find a failed clip. Really easy, And so I'm not worried. Him moving left will be interesting for us. It's going to put a bit more onus on Odegaard on our right-hand side to have a real offensive presence, and not just rely on the centre forward in Havertz to come over and help do that job for you. So if he is going to go left, that's going to wake up left-hand side, but it's going to really expose Odegaard as well to be that guy. So that's the only things I see. People say lack of headed goals, but I look at some of the Coventry goals that he scored. He's throwing his head in everywhere. Again, I'm not worried. If your desire to score is there, then you'll do the job, right? So it's all about where you start and how you attack the ball and the aggression you attack the ball with. Gabriel attacks the ball. There was a points last season when Big Gabriel showed the most desire of any of our players to score a goal. Lots of times. He's the one, and I think Gyökeres will bring that desire to our penalty area. And I think I can't have our centre half being the only one prepared to kill himself to score. That's what it feels like sometimes. We score our goals. We scored the third highest goal. Let's not over-index it. But we want more. We want more.
Yeah. I think that's all well said. It's interesting because I think one of the nice things about being able to observe where the holes are in a player's game or where the weaknesses are in a player's game is that it calls attention to what the club is prioritizing and the strengths of a player's game. You know what I mean? Like, if a player isn't a good dribbler but is a great sprinter, that tells you something. We're not buying the player to get on the ball and be the first man. We're buying a player to run in behind and challenge a back line, right? If a player is incredibly hardworking defensively, but a little workmanlike in attack, maybe it says we're looking for that position to help us plug some holes in the way we defend. I mean, there's a lot of ways you can see what a team is trying to do with the strengths and weaknesses of a player. And I think if Viktor Gyokeres is on the ball in build-up and transition early a lot, I don't think he will be a success, and I don't think we will look great. I don't think that's what he's there to do. I think he's there to challenge back lines in ways that we have not done, to not pull out to the wing and not drop deep and collect and lay it off. I think he is there to make a lot of repeat runs in behind, to sprint, to push, to force center backs to move, and in forcing center backs to move, also create more opportunities for our wide players. There's one other angle I want to come at this from. And by the way, it's not like we're going to stop talking about this player and his qualities. We're going to be talking about this for a long time and hopefully talking about his qualities of repeatedly putting it in the back of the net, which this guy has the clear ability to do. Make no mistake, to Clive's point, someone who can shoot the ball hard and accurately makes us better, period. And he can do that. But, Tim, I think the mechanics of the deal are worth analyzing because you could have liked Sesko more. But the thing that's clear is the Sesko deal was not a good deal. It looks like it was 90 million euro. It wasn't clear the player wanted to come. There were rumors of him wanting a release clause. The club were impossible to deal with. And what does Berta go do? He goes and gets a guy that's one of the top scoring strikers in Europe, wanted by Manchester United. gets him to give up a couple $1 million of his own wage, gets his agent to give up $6 million of his own fees in the deal, and gets the deal down to 63 million euro. And I just think any way you look at it, forget whether you think this was the right player. Berta has done an excellent job with deal mechanics here. And I'm wondering what you think of that, because I think we've done some brilliant transfers in the last few years in terms of making our team stronger. I'm not sure we've always been brilliant at the mechanics of the deal. We've paid a lot of full fair deals for a lot of the players we acquired. What do you think of what maybe Berta showed in terms of his core competency of getting the best deal for Arsenal Football Club in this one?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, at the risk of sounding smug, which is a risk I run very consistently, go back and listen to a conversation we had maybe 4 weeks ago when, like, I'm sorry, I'm really trying not to sound like judgmental and superior, but I am, so I will. In the mid,
that's like when Adam on the show on Friday said, I'm a genius. I'm a reasonable
no,
genius.
but he said something that really resonated with me actually about like the reaction to Madueke, and he's like, do you know what? Sometimes we should just say some people are stupid babies and leave it at that. But
Some people are, yeah.
but like a month ago, we were having a conversation about when are you going to panic, and it was like. It's like the 10th of June or something. I was like, I cannot believe we are. Sorry, I sound like Victor Meldrew now. I couldn't believe we were having that conversation in the middle of June. I just could not and still can't believe how hysterical people got, and I still judge those people. But anyway, there was like a more kind of reasonable, like, oh, when should it be done? When should we start? Like, all right, now's not the time to be cautious, like be anxious about this. When should we be anxious? And I think I kind of said I felt like that what would happen is that we'd try and negotiate with both strikers, and that probably just before the Asia pre-season tour we'd pull the trigger on someone. And I think that's pretty much exactly what we've done. So well done me for predicting that was exactly what was going to happen.
Kudos.
But that seems to have been like a theme of the summer, right? You know, either negotiating with the player, like basically getting the player before we go to the club through intermediaries. Seems to be one way we're doing it, but also like negotiating with different players and using them all as leverage against each other. But also it's just been a really sensible way of doing things, particularly when we had two striker targets who no one else seems to be in for, surprisingly or not. Liverpool, I think, spent most of their budget on like a really good attacker, don't get me wrong, but they probably didn't have the financial room to do a deal like this. Man City don't need to. Chelsea have got...
United wanted Gyökeres. We do know that.
But they can't do it because of their PSR position. They haven't been able to... Do you remember as well? And I was talking about, in that podcast, I was talking about Mbeumo, and everyone's like, oh, United are going to do Mbeumo before we... Have they done it? Have they? Bollocks.
Nope.
They have not done it. That deal is not done. Nobody has bought that player. So please, can you just stop saying, like, oh, Arsenal are the only ones who drag out transfers? No, they get dragged out everywhere. And that one, just because you see a link to a player with another club, in your head it's done. It's not done. That's been going on for a month, and it's still not done because Man United are buggered PSR-wise. But anyway, so like I do feel like Berta's done a very, very good job in this window. However, at the same time, I don't want to go too overboard, because I do think there are some contexts that have been relatively generous as well. So, for example, we kind of kept our powder dry in the two preceding windows, and that's created a context which has also given us a strong PSR headroom, and it's a non-tournament summer. So actually, Elliot, when I go back and look at what did we do summer 2023, Havertz, Timber, Rice, all of those were done before pre-season tour, weren't they? More or less. It was Raya that was a little bit later, and we had to do that on loan because, again, we didn't have the PSR headroom, and that seemed like an opportunistic signing. Summer 2022, the big signings, Jesus, Zinchenko, Vieira, they were all done before pre-season tour. So the non-tournament summers, we do tend to get stuff done. It will be interesting next summer when it's a World Cup, you know, but then maybe we won't have as much to do. I think also every squad just has a cycle. You just get that quiet summer sometimes where you don't do a lot, you don't need to do a lot. Go and look at Liverpool last summer. They had a very quiet summer. But then sometimes just naturally in a squad build, you've got 5 or 6 things that you need to do. Maybe some stuff you've held over, like replacing your 32, 33-year-old central midfielders. And, or we don't really have backup for Saliba. We need a backup goalkeeper. Like lots of little pieces of admin just kind of come to a head at the same time. So I don't think next summer that we're going to be making 6 or 7 signings. I kind of hope not. Otherwise, that means we got a lot wrong this summer, and it will be a World Cup year. So hopefully next summer we'll have, it will be like a quieter summer on the back of a World Cup, and maybe that's really good planning. So I do think there's been a generous context where we've had a lot to do. A lot of the stuff we have done is like squad backup stuff as well. So like Norgard, Kepa, probably not difficult deals to do. In fairness, like this one's been more difficult, and if we want an Eze or a Rodrygo, that's more difficult. That's more likely to go into August. So I think the signs are really positive, but I do also think there's like a fairly generous context there.
Yeah, you're basically saying the conditions were there to be successful, but you still have to be successful. And if I look at just the Gyökeres deal, and I say last summer they were quoting prices of 100 million, and he was the top striker in Europe and had just as good a season this season, and now he's going for 63 million euro and gave up 2 million of his own money, and his agent gave up 6 million. You compare that with other deals being done, and it looks well negotiated, is what I will say. I think sometimes directors of football, Clive, are viewed as the oracle. They find the players, they decide who to sign, they negotiate the deals, they do it all. We know that's not true. It's a collaborative process. But I do think directors of football, like Berta, have a big responsibility in closing the deal and the mechanics of the deal and the numbers. And that's where you can evaluate them. Did they do a good job with the deal itself? And this one feels like a job well done. Do you have any quick thoughts on the business Berta's done before we move on to some more interesting topics?
Yeah, you got to look at it as a whole, haven't you? A couple of those deals, the Kepa one, we knew about that 5 mil. Just did that one really, really quickly. Suits our dressing room, done. Christian Norgard, I didn't know about that one, never thought about that at any point. As soon as you see 2 clips with crikey, he works, look at the price, done. Look at his character, he brought some joy back to the Arsenal world last week with his signing video. And you think, crikey, someone's done their homework there, Mosquera signing about to happen. Watching under 21 tournament, you look at this player and think, okay, we have been linked, but so have RB Leipzig. Maybe we won't get him. Look at you do the Germany route. We do get him. He only wants Arsenal. The number's going to be good. This is exciting stuff, And of course we're fans, right? So we know what's coming. So we all want one more, right? And I'm sure you're going to talk about him later, Elliot. Well, we all want one more. That's just the nature of who we are and how we operate. And I'm really impressed. And I'm not going to pretend I knew about him before, because I didn't. I didn't know how he operated, and everyone's talking like, oh, this is what he does. No, none of us knew. Well, I didn't know, But to see him operate this way has been really, really good. And I go to the next part of his CV is going to be on the sales side of things, Elliot, because we've got 3 or 4 to move. And there are some links towards them. It's like, oh, this is good, because that's a big part of the job as well. You've got to talk to people and say, look, he's not going to work for you here. Can I help you find another place? And when someone's got more experience, who's got more contacts, that helps on the exits as well. So I'm really pleased we went for a more experienced sporting director in the first place to bring that institutional knowledge into the club. I really wanted that. But let's see, he's proving the pudding, right? But so far, really, really, really good.
Yeah, and I think Norgard's a great example. You touched on it, but I think it's just worth restating. Someone figured out, because they quoted Spurs 40 million or something. Someone figured out that to Arsenal it could be less, that it could be a really good way to backfill a midfielder we're losing at a really attractive price. And someone also figured out this guy loves the club. I mean, you cannot watch any of the video put out of him seeing his shirt in the car or seeing his son in the shirt and not realize how much this means to him. Someone figured those things out and got that deal done in a relatively quick period of time when they figured out that there was going to be an absence in the squad that they needed to fill. That's just really good, efficient operating. I think the fact that we are going to get on the plane for Singapore and have all of these players in and ready to go was important, and it was well executed. Whether you're inclined to give a lot of credit or just a little credit, you're judged on whether you accomplished the job. And the job seems to me to be largely accomplished, with the exception of maybe one more player, which we will discuss. We're going to talk.
Can I maybe ask a question just in the interests of, maybe a bit of criticism for the club here? We maybe could have got Gyökeres in January for this price, do you think? And do you think maybe the fact that we didn't do that, potentially because we were waiting for Sesko, and instead we've waited for 5 months to end up, do you think there's any, I know that's all captain hindsight stuff, but do you think there's any criticism, G, for that?
Yes, but, and I believe this firmly, and Clive, I'll let you answer that. I think the club's evaluation of Gyökeres was influenced by Berta's arrival. I believe that Berta really rates this player and has come in and said, guys, I really want to encourage you that this player is at the level we need, and probably shared some data and shared his video and shared his perspective, because it's been widely reported that Berta scouted him when he was in Madrid, that he really liked the player. And I'm not saying Arsenal hated him. I'm just saying I don't think that there was consensus on him. And Berta, to his credit, has come to the club and I think generated a consensus that this is the right guy to get and that he's gettable in the time we need to. So, Clive, do you have any quick thoughts on that before we pivot?
Yeah, my thoughts changed during your answers. I do think, also we spoke about...
Great, that shows that I've answered it really well. Terrific.
Well, I think it's... I don't want to say what you just said, but hey, last summer was more damaging than we realised. Because everything we did thereafter was a knock-on effect. And when it came to January, we didn't have a sporting director. We didn't have those people in place. He didn't arrive till March. And so to show that sort of financial discipline at that point in time, to almost leave this open and work to do, was probably easier decision to make when Kai Havertz was running around like a 3-year-old. When Kai Havertz pulled his hamstring on a mid-season break, you look a little bit dumb. Look a little bit, why have you taken that risk? And then we're in scramble mode. I do think, and I do this, right? I've defended things inside the club, players I've liked, and think back, how could I defend him? I remember defending Kolasinac and his left foot crosses, and then after a while he couldn't get to those areas to make those crosses. But you defend them in the context of the environment that you have at that particular time. And I've looking back now, it's still early. I'm actually pleased we've moved on from the Edu era. I think it's just everyone has their time in the club, their role and their influence based on your projects, where you are in that life cycle. But maybe it was just time for something else. But while we were making that fundamental change to our football infrastructure, our people infrastructure, we froze. We held station, and we gambled on the health and fitness of our current players. And it did not work. So now we said, rather than half blow it in January, you say, okay, let's reload in the summer. And we all felt we would. And the reason why, there's no choice. If you don't, you go backwards. There was no choice here. The fact we've done it well, we seem to be doing it well, is what I find really, really interesting. So there was no choice here. You either lose your jobs or you make the change. Simple.
And Tim, not to disagree with you per se, but I think that this is some context that's worth noting. I think the presumption that you could have gotten Gyökeres in January and gotten him for the same fee, I don't know that that's right, and I'll give you just 2 data points that are worth noting. Sporting pipped hated Lisbon rival Benfica to the title by 2 points, and that was basically decided on the last day. Sporting also had what they probably would have regarded as a winnable Champions League knockout tie against Dortmund in February. So I think the idea that they were going to get rid of their bagsman, their talisman.
Bagsman, I like that.
Bagsman. I gotta, look, I gotta be the young man that I am.
You're becoming a Brit by the second.
I'm just saying, the culture flows through me. But, you know what I'm saying, Tim? I think the idea that they definitely would have parted with the guy they rely on to score goals at a time when they were fiercely contesting a title and also still in the Champions League. I don't know that that's a fait accompli. So just another perspective there. Let's there's a lot of things still to cover. I want to talk Eze, I want to talk Mosquera, Ethan a bit. I'm already 50 minutes in, and again, I can I have a talent. It's a unique talent. I can hear the listener as we record. And the listener is saying, Elliot, I have an e-commerce business. I have no idea how to start. You can tell me everything you want to tell me about Viktor Gyokeres. That doesn't help me start my e-commerce business. And to you, listener, I say, I am sorry I've let you down, but those times are over because you can use Shopify to start your e-commerce business. Shopify, just in case you don't know, because you probably every day go to a website run by a Fortune 500 company where you shop or something like that. And what you may not know is behind the scenes, the platform they're on is Shopify. Shopify has the ability to power a Fortune 500 company's e-commerce, but also make it simple for a startup like yours to get live. And they do a few things you have to be able to do now if you're going to have an e-commerce business. Sell on TikTok, sell on Facebook, sell on Instagram with instant, easy integrations, right? So you don't have to know any code. You pick a picture, you write a description, you set the price, boom, you're up, you're running. You can put your own website link in there, your own URL, as the kids call it, and you're up and running. They have made it so simple to do this, and they take care of things like cart checkout flows and shipping and taxation, all the things that you don't want to have to know about because all you want to know about is, for example, your artwork and getting your artwork out to the wider world. That's what they make simple. And you can find this out by starting with them. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And if you are hiring, you simply must use Indeed. I cannot emphasize enough how bad the hiring experience is, and by the way, the job application experience is because of the billion websites you have to go to, the algorithms you have to sort through, the number of applications that don't meet your must-have requirements, or you could just use Indeed. And you could stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. You can use Indeed sponsored posts. With the sponsored post, your post jumps right to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you reach the people you want faster. Here's the impact. According to Indeed data, those posts directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. This is great on both ends because it means the best applicants are being connected to the best jobs. That's when the applicant and the job poster are most happy. Quicker hiring of better applicants with less time wasted. That's why you use Indeed. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners, this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Just go to Indeed.com/ArsenalVision right now and support our show by saying you heard about it, Indeed, on this podcast. Indeed.com/ArsenalVision. Term and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed's all you need. Done with that.
Indeed.
Nailed it. Okay. By the way, if you appreciate us and what we do, give us a 5-star review. We would love that. I never really cared about that because, all I care about is that we deliver the best possible podcast that our little brains and mouths can deliver. But it has been told to me that those 5-star reviews help other people find the show. And we want other people to find the show because, well, then this whole thing just carries on the love, the community, the whole thing. Give us a 5-star review, damn it. He puts the lotion in the basket or else it gets the hose again. You ever see Silence of the Lambs? Quality flick.
No, I ain't got time for that rubbish.
Oh my God. It's not football.
Films, not football, is it?
He's watching comps. Nothing but comps for Clive. All right, Clive, if it's nothing but comps for you, another deal looks like it's close, and that is Christian Mosquera. Again, just a really nice example of efficiency. We need a backup right-sided center back. Here's one at a good price from a club that has to sell, very talented, right age, wants Arsenal, looks like it's going to get done in time for preseason. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on it because defenders aren't fun, only attackers are fun. What do you think of Christian Mosquera and the likelihood that this man will also be with us in Singapore?
Yeah, I think he will be. I'd like to call him a right-footed defender, which I think we need. And obviously, he's not quite... I sort of want to get away from this term backup, because backup drives people crazy. If it's backup and it costs 52 million, the world can end and spray paints come out, right? If it's backup and people are happy with the price, that's a good signing, that is. We have to think, does he fit our group? Does he look like an Arsenal defender that can defend on a half-a line one-on-one, can play a couple of
Clive,
positions?
you know the meme of the guy pointing to his head? The GIF, the guy pointing to his head, like nobody's a backup if everybody gets injured. That's right, so, there you go. Yeah,
but it's true though, isn't it? When the way we contextualize moves, it can cause tension, right? So you have to think about what can this guy do for you, So, and he plays left centre back and right centre back and has played right back. And basically, we've just cancelled a contract to somebody that does a lot of that stuff, and can play all four positions, right? So, and so it makes perfect sense. It makes a lot of sense. He's at the right age. He's got, for me, the way we defend now is quite clear. We've moved away from the David Luizes and the Rob Holdings. We've got people that can really go one-on-one in our pressing style and be happy in wide spaces all around them because they're aggressive. They follow people all the way in. And if they do get beat, they can win a race going backwards. So you can spot an Arsenal defender now, can't you? A million miles away. Honestly, It's really easy. It's really, as soon as you see this one, you don't have to watch that many comps. Just watch one. And you'll go, okay, coach, get on with it. Seriously, it's all there, isn't it? It's all there. He just needs to learn, have time on the ball, learn what we do, always polish up your technique, recognise you're playing against probably some of the biggest and fastest strikers in the world in the Premier League. So give yourself a yard on occasions, but know when to be really aggressive on others. That only comes from experience. And I really like this sign. From the moment we were linked with him, I liked it. And then I spoke to Phil actually offline. And I said, Phil, mate, I like him. And Phil sort of said, oh, mate, I'll be going to get him. And I just switched off. So when he came back up, I thought, brilliant. So really, really happy with it. And I hope he's as good as I think he is in my mind, because I haven't seen him play live yet.
Yeah, I don't have strong takes on this because it's hard to scout defenders. The data doesn't tell you much. To Clive's point, I think what I see is an Arsenal defender in type. And so the rest of it for me is just, we'll find out. These backup players, as Clive called them, like I think, these developmental players, let's say that, right, that you're bringing in to develop their skill set and maybe play limited minutes for now, can go a lot of different directions. We scouted Fabio Vieira, and I thought he was brilliant in terms of his talent. It didn't work out for a number of reasons. So they can go all different directions. We'll just have to see. But I think it's good that we're getting this deal done. Unless you have a strong take on Mosquera, I want to move to another point, Tim.
But just very quickly, I think, first of all, there's 2 points here. I was listening to the Arscast earlier, and they were talking about how summers often seem to be a product of Mikel Arteta's trauma, for want of a better word. This is actually a position we weren't punished in the last 2 seasons, I don't think, but we could have been. If Saliba's hamstring had gone a couple of months earlier, we really could have been, but we weren't. But we've taken that insurance anyway. I think the Tomiyasu point is a good one. I think, apologies, someone said this on Twitter, and I can't, or Blue Sky, and I can't remember who, but someone made the point that we're negotiating contracts at the moment with Saka and Saliba, and we're buying players who can play their positions, which could be viewed as a kind of maybe a product of some of those discussions, maybe a kind of, I want to stay here, but I'm kind of worried about what my Achilles tendon's going to look like when I'm 27 years old. Pure speculation, but I think that's worth considering.
I think it's a great
chill
point.
Just went down all the listeners' spines.
No, I think honestly that's a massive point, that is. Because to find players that want to compete with those two players, that shows their character, doesn't it? It's back to character again. To have a player that says, so you have to have multi-positional abilities. I mean, you're not always sitting behind 2 world stars, So I think it's a really, really good point. What I'd be interested in, Tim, is if they want this, because we just assume that they want to and can play 60 games. But honestly, sometimes we watched Saliba last year and he was dragging himself out there, mate. Himself out there. They want to show the best of themselves, and so we do need this group to be of a level that we've never had before. Because I reckon Mikel Arteta's career took a change the moment Saliba and Tomiyasu went down the same game against Sporting Lisbon. I just wondered, just one of them went down, what would have happened that season? Injury has really caught him at the wrong times. And I think he's unlucky sometimes, or we take risks that have manifested. I'm not sure. People can choose how they want to go, but I won't forget that night. Things could have been very different in that season if it wasn't for that.
Yeah. And to your point about these long seasons and playing too many games, I mean, we're not going to talk about this game for obvious reasons, but there was a game played yesterday, and PSG finally hit a wall after 80 games or whatever the hell they played in a season, where they finally got chinned, and I think the thing about PSG we've been saying for a long time is they have a small group that they rely on. Not that they don't have a lot of talent and they've spent a hell of a lot of money, but they rely on pretty much the same players over and over again. They've all stayed fit. They're able to pick them every game. And it took about 80 games or whatever the hell they played, and finally it caught up with them. So you want to be in a position. I have said, I don't want to be a hypocrite. The big clubs don't rotate as much as we think in the major competitions. The good players tend to play every Premier League and Champions League game. But they don't have to play the League Cup, and they don't have to play the FA Cup, and every once in a while you can sneak 60 minutes instead of 90. Those kinds of things by the end of the season matter when it's winning time. So this all helps, and we'll see what happens when he comes in. Look, Tim, we're not going to talk Madueke today. We did a big Madueke debate on the last pod. We've done a Madueke scouting video, and there will be time to talk more Madueke, and we're going to get to see him in an Arsenal shirt in the not-too-distant future. But I do think that everybody's holding on for that one last fun signing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that one last fun signing. We got the defenders we need, great. We got the backup keeper, the midfield sorted. We got the striker, that's exciting. We got a winger that people are mixed on. Let's just say it that way for the time being and move on. But that one that's going to have everybody collectively high-fiving is Eberechi Eze, or maybe Rodrygo. It's one of those. It sure seems like we got to sell one for one of those deals to happen.
Yep.
So I'm curious to just get your state of the left wing thoughts in terms of how important it is that we do get one in and the need to move one out for that to happen.
Yeah, I think that pretty much shapes the rest of I think the rest of the window will be shaped by sales largely now. I think the focus will probably move on to getting some people out the door who need to go out the door. And hopefully, as much as we've had players who've been eager to join, I'm kind of hoping there are some players who are quite eager to go, the ones we want to go. But do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like there are a few players that we're looking to shed this summer whose careers are stuck and who need to go for their own sake as much. Like, I'm looking at Fabio Vieira. You've got to go somewhere else, mate, and you've got to try and, realise your potential somewhere else. Zinchenko, your career's stalled. You've got to go somewhere else. That even Reece Nelson, Reece Nelson still feels like a young player and he's not. So, I'm hoping that there's a willingness on the part of some of those players, Sambi Lokonga as well, to go, right, no, I need to get my career started now, I'm stuck. And hopefully, fewer players where it's like, no, I don't want to go, I'm happy here picking up my salary. I think most of those players are an age as well where maybe they will want to go. They're not 32, 33 going, no, I quite like this salary and I want to take it into my dotage. But I think you're right. I think, in terms of again, that's admin really. I think it is probably, does Trossard go and does therefore say Eze or Rodrygo come in? Rodrygo, if that's going to happen, which I don't get the sense it will, I've always had the sense that's something that would happen. If he goes anywhere, I think it's going to happen in the last week of August, most likely. That tends to be how things happen with Madrid as well. When they they push a superstar out or they push someone out, it tends to be because they want someone else in, whereas actually this time it does just look like a difference with the manager, really. And Eze, I feel like, and I could be wrong here, because there's a release clause, isn't there? So there is a price at which that will be done whether Palace like it or not. And I think the player would definitely be up for it. That is another player who's 27, who, to Clive's point on the last podcast, he's just scored the winning goal for Palace in the FA Cup final. It's not getting any better than that, quite frankly. And again, it's probably his last chance for a move like this. I'm sure he wouldn't take much convincing. And there is a release clause, so there is a price at which that can be done. But you're probably looking at, to meet that price or something close to it, someone of significance is probably going to have to go out the door. And I imagine the club would be most open to that being Trossard, but maybe if it has to be Martinelli, maybe they'll go there as well. But we've got potentially, I think it's quite a healthy position to be in. We've got two players who are probably sellable, but the world's not going to end if they stay, basically. So, we've got those players who it's like, okay, if you stay, we think you'll contribute most likely next season. But if you don't, we can refresh there. So I think that's a healthy position to be in. I do think that might well play out over the rest of the window or over the next month or so.
If you like hearing someone just read out numbers on a podcast, and I'm sure you do, you can check out my last Transfer Daily, because I read out the minutes played in the league of attackers at City, Liverpool, PSG, Madrid, Barca, Bayern. And 5 players play over 1,000 minutes in the league. 5. I think one of them had a 6th player who, I think PSG had a 6th that was at like 996 or something. Okay, so it's 5 players. Leo, Martinelli, Gyökeres, Kai, Saka, Madueke. That's 6. Eze, that's 7. If you want to throw Ethan in the group, that's 8. I just told you 5 players get over 1,000 minutes, if you're lucky. You cannot make it work with 8 players. Even if that's what you need or think you need, it does not work. None of the City doesn't do it, Liverpool don't do it, PSG don't do it, Bayern don't do it, Barca don't do it, Real Madrid don't do it. I want Eze. I understand why we have to move one out to get him. Not even financially. Just because you cannot keep Leo and Martinelli on the money they're on and have Leo play 500 minutes or 300 minutes. It doesn't work. So I do think Clive, one has to go. Now, if you say it's Martinelli, would I accept Martinelli out as in? I'd accept it. I'm not sure it definitely makes us better. I think it probably does, but I don't know definitely. And B, it certainly moves the age profiles around in a way I don't love, because you got 27-year-old Gyökeres and 27-year-old Eze, and you're moving out 24-year-old Martinelli in it. I don't love it. I'd take it. But I think Leo out, Reece Nelson, if you can move him out, Vieira out, Eze in. It's a deal we can get done. Rodrygo, sure, there's a dream of Rodrygo there. I think it's a harder deal, and I think it's a much less certain and much more expensive deal. So for me, Leo out, Eze in would be the cherry on the icing on the cake for me. You agree with all that, or that mess of an argument I've made there? Or do you have a different perspective?
Well, Rodrygo's not my dream. Eze is someone that I think would bring lots of sunshine to the club if he was to come along. And there's 2 angles. The Leo one sort of feels right, but and I think Bayern Munich are in for him. Obviously, his manager's his Belgian colleague, and they've had an injury in that space, and they could do with somebody that can play on the interior and on the outside. Musiala's injury, and also helping on his return to play. So I can see a lot of sense for Bayern to go for that rather than go heavy on a Diaz, which is a big price for them, etc. So maybe that might happen. That could change things. So from an age profile sort of thing, it makes a lot of sense because we upgrade. I think a lot of the signs we have so far have been, we need to do this to fill gaps that have appeared. But this is like an upgrade. Gyökeres is like a Jesus replacement, really. This is an upgrade opportunity. And maybe Madueke is an upgrade as well on that positions and those multiple positions. This is where I really want to see how we operate. This is it now. Are we prepared to do an upgrade for somebody that's done really, really well for us? And really push this out. For me, that's what we should be doing. But if you think about it from a business point of view, maybe Martinelli is the better one to move, because right now he's got a big number next to him. Next year, what we could do is crash the asset, right? If he doesn't play enough minutes, then that number won't be the same. So Trossard's number doesn't really change that much. His wages are steady. He'll still produce. So Martinelli's worth 50, 60 million. Maybe if he goes now, next year he might be 35. It's what we do, isn't it? It's when people say, sort of bad sellers. No, it's about protecting your asset, making sure he's got room to play. So that's what we have to do better at, so we don't crash the asset value. So for me, the Trossard, I just think it's time. And there's been rumours about him for a little while, Saudi Arabia, etc. I think there's time, and more importantly, I think there's an opportunity. If the opportunity presents itself, you should take it, right? So the other names are obvious. If we get some money in for them, I think Nelson's got Fulham. They're looking at him, and potentially Brentford or West Ham. I'm not sure which one now, but definitely London clubs. Good player, done well when he played last year, done his hamstring. I think he's going to find something. Zinchenko, I've not seen much on him, apart from Dortmund a little while ago. Sambi did some time in Spain, did okay. Again, another hamstring injury, so I'm not sure on his future going forward. So it's all there now. This is where the new sporting director with his contacts has got to do his work. I think it's very important, because I think for all Arsenal fans that are getting used to the emotion of finally getting their striker, I think Eze would just send us over the top into a happy place.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, again, it's just this thing with Eze where I think he can be an effective left-sided attacker, and he gives you protection from being too reliant on Martin Odegaard to be the only sort of truly creative final third midfielder. I want to be careful. I don't want to dismiss what Declan Rice has done in that role or what Marino could do in that role. I don't want to act like they do nothing. But you know what I mean. Someone who is a real operator on the edge of the box.
Do you know what? I think I really want us to sign Eze. And I share some of your reservations. There's a bit of it's like, I don't know exactly where he fits it, but I'm kind of also quite attracted to that. But I just feel like it would be quite un-Arsenal, but in a really exciting way, where we're not replacing someone. We're not going, Gabriel Jesus' knee's gone, so we're buying a striker, and maybe Martin. It would just feel like he's a really good player. He's not replacing anyone. It's not slotting in. He's a really good player, which is kind of what Man United did for a long time. It's kind of what Man City have done. It's what Chelsea do. I'm not too keen on going too far down the chip, but like maybe Roman Abramovich, Chelsea, where it's a bit like he's a really good player, so we're buying him. Like, I'm quite attracted to that element of it, which is maybe a bit irrational, but it is where I am with it.
I totally agree with that, by the way. Don't try and fit him into positions. He's just a good player that can play on the left-hand side or the centre of the pitch. And whatever the game requires, we get the ball to him and see what happens. And that's it. At the moment, we give the ball to Saka and see what happens. To have another one like that, completely dominant when the ball arrives at his feet, I don't care where he plays. I just want him to come. Honestly, I've stopped trying to put people in little boxes now. I just want him to come. I want us to be looked at differently by this type of signing.
You can look all over world football and see players that you're not exactly sure what their position is, but you put them on the pitch and they succeed. Kai Havertz is a great example of a tweener type player.
You could have that conversation. Where does he fit in at Liverpool? Who cares?
Yeah,
three positions come to mind straight away, don't they?
Well,
10, a left 8 or a left wing, and we could have that argument. And I'm sure Liverpool fans are having it right now, but I can't wait to see him.
Yeah, Jude Bellingham is one of those players that you just put him on the pitch and let him cook, right? What is his exact position? I don't know. You tell me. There's a lot of players like this, and I think Eze fits into that category. By the way, look at PSG. Who's their best striker? That winger they converted, Ousmane Dembele. And where does he play? He drops all over the place. He plays wherever he wants to go, and he presses, but then he drops deep to receive. And, the idea that these players have to be, strictly speaking, suited to a specific role. I think sometimes there is a case of that. Maybe Arsenal have been guilty of having too many strikers that just aren't strikers, and now we have one that's a striker. But Eberechi Eze is a player that he'll play over there on the left side of the pitch somewhere, don't worry. Because, by the way, Leo Trossard, you could make an argument over the last 2 seasons that Leo Trossard's been our best left-sided attacker, better than Martinelli. I think you can make the argument. I'm not saying it's definitely true, but you can make the argument. And I don't regard him as a winger. But he just kind of plays over there. He's just over there. And Eze would just be really good over there. You know what I mean, Clive?
Oh, absolutely, mate. Just get him on the pitch, right? Get him on the pitch, and allow him to play in the top level European competition for one stage in his career with a couple of his mates, and for the team that he loves. And every single Arsenal fan, mate, I don't care if he could trap it or not, we will still cheer him. Just because we know the story, etc. So, this is a real feel-good one, Elliot. I think it's time for that. I really do. I really do.
Yeah. And I mean, feel good is great. You also want it to be talent. This is a blend of both. I mean, this is an extremely talented player. And I think maybe even underrated a little bit. But obviously, I've been in the tank for him for a long time. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay to play as you like. One thing I think that's happened in the discourse around players is you have to be right. Everybody has to be right. This is the right player. If you think Rodrygo's the better player, the better fit, the player we should try to get and hold out for, be my guest. I'm in the tank for Eze. I admit it. I really like this player. I've liked him for a long time, and I think he loves Arsenal, and I think it would just be fun to see him in the Arsenal shirt. That's part of it. I want to win things. I also want to enjoy watching Arsenal and have fun, and this would be very fun. And I do think, given the reaction to Madueke, some of which I think is just overstated online nonsense, and some of which I think is fair because it's not the player we had in our heart and in our mind, I think that would immediately end if Eze came in, and it was Eze, Gyökeres, and Madueke. Then that is a very, very big power-up in quality across the front three. Tim, I will just ask you about Rodrygo, though, because, by the way, there was a tournament this summer. Rodrygo played in it, or I should say didn't play in it, really. Madrid want him gone, let's be honest. He is not in the plan. I think he's going to move. If you're Arsenal, do you have to be in that discussion? Do you have to be in a situation where you say, if Rodrygo's going to move, we can't just let Liverpool have an unobstructed run at him, or Bayern Munich, who I think need a left sider big time, have an unobstructed run at him. We have to be in that competition. Or do you say, you know what? We can get the guy from the Premier League who wants us, and we want him, and we know how the deal would work. Let's sell Leo, get Eze, and Rodrygo someone else's concern.
Yeah, I think I'd favour the former, but I'm not quite as high on Rodrygo as other people. Although there is like a fair amount of ignorance baked into that Rodrygo take. I don't watch Real Madrid every single week, so I kind of think, as much as there's like what I consider to be kind of irrational trauma about former Chelsea players, I also think that we have this thing about Real Madrid players where it's like, oh, we got Ozil, we got Ødegaard, they're all like that. Whereas I'm just not quite sure he's in that class. I think it's a little bit of muscle memory, like, oh, a guy who's fallen out of favour at Real Madrid, he'll be amazing. Like, I'm just not sure he's quite at that level, but maybe I'm wrong. But I do think, I think that, assuming we can't do Eze like tomorrow or in 2 weeks or whatever, we should absolutely stay in that room. Yes, because I think we need a left-sided player. Again, we might have to sell someone to make room for it, but like that I think might even have been top of a lot of people's priorities for this summer, and it's not done yet. There's a lot of talk about Madueke can play over there. Okay, but we have to see that first. Like, none of us have ever really seen that before. So that would be a leap of faith if that is in any way the kind of the plan. So I'd be disappointed if we kind of said, nah, we're not, nah, like someone else can have him type thing. But at the same time, I think we've probably put ourselves in a position this summer that it's not like we don't have to mortgage the entire summer on it. Perhaps like we had to when we signed Ozil, like we'd mortgaged our entire summer on shaking that Real Madrid tree and just getting whoever the hell fell out, because there are about 3 different players who could have. So I'm more relaxed about it, but I definitely wouldn't like to be ruled out of it altogether, no.
Yeah, that's fair. Clive, I don't think we have to talk more about Rodrygo. There'll be time if it comes back up. So I'll just ask you one final question. There's some pictures going around and some fun stuff out there. Arsenal back in training at La Manga. There's been a training session. You see the
pictures of Rodrygo. I thought I missed that.
Pictures of Rodrygo in the Arsenal shirt are circulating. It depends what AI you use. Any final quick thoughts on just training and seeing the players back together? Anything you've noticed about them?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be so interesting to see what the message is for this year, because around this time, Arteta will do his first interview soon, where he'll talk about the summer, probably on tour, and he'll talk about the messages, what he wants to achieve. He's probably spent time with his coaches now already, planning pre-season, planning the games, planning the selections, planning how they're going to work within the games they already have, the schedule they have, and how they're going to prepare. And this will come out in his first interview. What's going to do slightly differently, what's different to the squad, what lessons have they learned. I think it's the most interesting interview of the whole season, actually, because you can't help but say what you've been talking about internally for a couple of months. And so I'm interested in that. Hey, we see all the players together. We think, yeah, you've got some good players. It's actually quite interesting to see the youth players that are in Spain right now. We've got a couple of really young ones there that are looking quite good, potentially, and Arsenal really do well with getting them into the group and really giving them time. I just read this morning, due to the size of the squad, I wonder how many of them will go to Singapore. So they're probably competing for that. There's probably a short number that's going to go out to Singapore, and they're probably training together now to see who's most ready for that trip, to go abroad and be part of the first team squad. like Miles and Ethan did last season with Josh Nichols, for example. And that was the start for them, wasn't it? We didn't suspect they'd have the impact they had, but it was a critical moment, you know. And Elliot, we saw the players how they looked after them, you know, on the trip, was talking to them on the pitch and in the games, and really, really coaching them. And it's really nice to see. I think pre-season games are a wonderful chance to really see the team and how they operate together. And so I'll be going to the Emirates ones. So yeah, that's what I'm looking at, mate. So far, so good. It's just nice to see the group again, and in the new training kit that no doubt we'll go out and buy.
Got to sell some merch somehow. Guys, we've been going a while, so I think we can leave it there. We got a lot of additional content coming this week. I'm going to try to get a pod together with Coventry and Sporting contributors to talk Gyökeres, which I think would be fun and interesting. If you don't think that'll be fun and interesting, that's fine too. But I hope you'll like it. We'll have the Transfer Daily every day. I do think we might be coming to the end of the usefulness of the Transfer Daily, candidly. There's really only one deal probably left to do. I hear everybody going, you're not getting out of it this easy, bub.
Yeah.
You got 60 days to go.
You can talk about anything. Don't worry about it. Get on with it.
You obviously haven't been listening to the Transfer Daily because that's mostly what I do anyway. It's nonsense.
It's actually really
nonsense.
good. I've been a good Elliot. Don't do yourself down. I've enjoyed them.
I appreciate that. Well, we'll have a Friday Night Clive this Friday. All right. Enough with the banter. Join us over on Patreon if you would. AVP50 gets you half off that first month. And I'm always here. You can shoot me emails. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Tim, thanks, man.
My pleasure as always.
Clive, always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
My name's Elliot Smith. We love you. And we will talk to you after Arsenal 10 transfer window.